Where specifically should you think about living or retiring in Panama? We're going to tell you the 6 top options in just a minute. I'm Kathleen Petticord.
And I'm Lief Simon.
Welcome to a new episode of our Live and Invest Overseas podcast. Panama has been one of the world's best places to think about reinventing your life overseas for 2 decades nearly. It has been named the world's top option by Live and Invest Overseas, among many others, including even the AARP. But you aren't going to retire to Panama. You're going to retire to some specific city or beach or town or neighborhood or village within Panama. We call it thin slicing. So if you're shopping Panama, where specifically should you be looking? We would like to introduce you to the 3 most traditionally sought out locations in Panama, and then 3 places you may not have thought about but that we think you should.
Right. So expats tend to congregate first to Panama City. Part of the reason for that is working expats. That's where they're going to work. That's where their national companies are mostly based. And so Panama City is trying to be, and I'm not sure how to phrase it, first world city. So you have modern high-rises, modern amenities, lots of restaurants, shopping malls like you would find in the U.S., grocery stores like you could find in the U.S., and then there's the infrastructure of Panama City, which is trying to catch up. And so if you're going to live in Panama City, one thing to take into consideration is traffic. There's different neighborhoods to look at, and the main neighborhoods that foreigners and expats live in are along Avenida Balboa, which is on the water, Costa del Este, which is a new kind of planned suburb is the best way to put it, where you can exist in Costa del Este without actually going into the heart of the city if you want to. It has everything that you need.
It's very self-contained.
Right. And then there's Casco Viejo, which is the old colonial part of the city. And so each of these neighborhoods is something different, and you can consider as part of Panama City, but you're going to have a different experience depending on where you go.
Right. Panama City is not a big city. It's relatively small and compact, but the lifestyle, the way you'll live day to day can be very different, as Lief is describing, from one part of it to another. And the amount of movement required for day-to-day living, depending on where you locate yourself within Panama City, is important, because getting around Panama City isn't easy. The traffic is one of the biggest downsides.
Right.
So you don't want to put yourself in a location where you're going to spend every day driving to the other side of the city, for example. It'll just be maddening.
Right. If you have an option, again, if you're not working,
right.
Pick the location that has the activities and amenities that you're most interested in, whether that's more city activities, like Casco Viejo has an opera house and there's concerts there, or more outside activities. There are horse riding facilities on each side of the city, so you can pick one side or the other. So you decide what it is that you're interested in.
And then there's Ancon, which is not quite, I guess, Panama City, but very nearby, which would be a kind of very outdoor setting for hiking, etc. So
right.
It's maybe fresher air, more of an outdoor experience, although you're still right there in Panama City. So very diverse for being such a small city. Then the second traditionally thought of option within Panama is what's referred to as the city beaches.
Right, and it's the city beaches because it's the closest beaches really to the city. There is one that's closer that has limited access, but it's probably going to end up being part of the suburban part of the city. It's on the other side of the canal from the city. But the city beaches are traditionally considered 45 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes from the city. So that hour stretch of coastline, starting at Chame and running to Buenaventura, is what's considered the city beach area. So again, there you have a lot of choices. Coronado was the first development there, first master planned development that started in the 60s, that a lot of expats have ended up in because it was the most developed, the longest. But now that entire coast is developing, and so you don't have to be in Coronado to avail of the amenities in Coronado, which are mostly on the Pan American Highway, right outside of Coronado. So
for shopping, etc.
So you can place yourself 20 or 30 minutes away from Coronado if you want to, or even at the Buenaventura end, there's now a shopping mall and facilities.
Right,
so again, anywhere along the coast, you have access to most of what you would need without going too far.
And that stretch of coast continues to develop at a rapid rate. Every time we drive by, almost, you see something new being constructed.
Right.
And that could be a plus or a negative, depending on what you're looking for. It's certainly a convenient place to be at this stage. But everywhere has its pluses and its minuses. And I would say, this may sound a little odd as it's a beach destination, but the downside to the city beaches destination is that the beaches are not necessarily great.
Right.
They're definitely not the best beaches in Panama.
Right. It's on the Pacific side, so they're Pacific style beaches, but they're not California style beaches. They're not deep. The sand and the water is not great. So and really the Panamanians go to the city beaches for the weekends, but I don't know that most of them ever actually make it to the beach. They just go, they just head out of the city to a house that is near the beach.
To a weekend house with their families, and they have barbecues and enjoy being with their family. And outside the city, the beach isn't necessarily the big draw. It's the accessibility to the city, the commutability.
And the outside space, because most people are living in apartments, or many people are living in apartments in the city, so you get to go to, a house with lots of outdoor space.
Okay. The third option for living in Panama that you may have heard of, likely have heard of, even if you haven't been paying attention to Panama, is Boquete, which has become very well known as one of the biggest, most established expat communities in the world, really.
Right. And that's mostly because the developer 15, 20 years ago decided that he was going to develop there and wanted to develop Boquete as a destination. So he did a lot of marketing and PR. So that's what Boquete is all about. It's not a big town. It has a high percentage of expats at this point, and maybe as many expats as locals. So if you want a local feel for moving to Panama, Boquete probably isn't the best choice. But part of the reason it attracts people is that it's in the mountains. So it has a cooler climate, and you get you out of that heat and humidity that you're in much of the
sea level.
in much of the rest of Panama.
Yeah.
So Boquete is another known destination that's still a valid destination for people because of all the foreigners. Though prices have gone up for real estate, and so it's become not the cheap destination in Panama.
Right. It's a choice in Panama where you might not have to learn Spanish if you didn't want to. You can get around there, get by day to day speaking English because of the population of expat retirees, and also because the local population has learned English largely because they're working in the shops and the restaurants, etc. All right, so again, every place has pluses and minuses. Those three are very well-known places that have minuses. Places that we think might in fact work out better for you when all is said and done and you do your sums of pluses and minuses are three places you may not have heard of, starting with Chitré, which is on the Azuero Peninsula.
Right. So Chitré is actually kind of inland. It's not the nearest water to them is more marshland and shrimp farms, but you can get to the beach still within 20 or 30 minutes from Chitré. But it's a true Panamanian town that has all of the modern day conveniences. It's the capital of the province. And so it has the grocery stores and shops.
It has a Price Smart
and the
now.
Price Smart if you want a Price Smart. But it still has the reasonably sized town and town center as well. So you do have that local feel. So that's, for expats not looking to be right on the beach and not wanting to be in a large a large city, Chitré is becoming more and more popular, and it certainly can be one of the more affordable destinations.
Exactly. So if budget is a primary concern, a town like Chitré, which is inland, in Panama they refer to the whole of the country outside Panama City as the interior. So Chitré would be a top option in the interior that is very, very affordable still because really nobody's paying attention to it yet.
Right.
All right, a second option that falls into that same category on the other side of the Azuero Peninsula. We're talking about Chitré, which would be on the east coast of the Azuero Peninsula. And now I'd like to mention Mariato, which would be on the west coast of the Azuero Peninsula.
Right, and so Mariato is a small town. There's a couple of small grocery stores. There is a bank. There's some expat restaurants. So this is for more adventurous expat, and these are the expats who are already there.
Right.
There are a few hundred, maybe 300 or 400 expats full and part-time along that western coast of the Israel Peninsula, running from Mariato south to Cairo. And but it's a growing expat community. And so if you're looking for more outdoor activity, more easy access to multiple beaches, a lot of surfers are retiring here. And so that's kind of the point of Mariato, is if you want to be living an outdoor lifestyle.
And while we made the point that the beaches in the city beaches stretch, along the city beaches stretch, might not be the best in Panama, I would say some of the best in Panama are along this coast.
Yeah, there are much nicer beaches along the Israel Peninsula.
And great surfing beaches, but also great walking beaches and great turtle beaches. This is one part of the country where turtles are nesting, and there are great turtle populations. It's also super affordable. So Mariato would be another real budget choice, great budget choice. And then our final, you may not have been paying attention to it yet, but should give it a consideration if you're looking at Panama, is another coastal choice, another beach town, again on the Israel Peninsula, called Pedasí.
Right. So this is on the southeast corner of the Israel Peninsula, and Pedasí has been has more expats. It's been more talked about for longer than the other two places. All three of them happen to be on the Israel Peninsula that we're talking about, because the Israel Peninsula is fairly big. It's it's maybe a quarter of the size of all of Panama's landmass, maybe a little bit more. And so Pedasí, it has an old kind of colonial square that has attracted people. There are some great surfing and fishing beaches along the southern part of the Israel Peninsula, which are accessed through Pedasí on the eastern side. And so it's a growing destination as well. A developer there years ago started a project that was super high end, way too high end, especially for the time, with multi-million-dollar homes. But since then, developers and builders have gone down there and are building things that are more affordable, but still not the most affordable place on the peninsula, simply because supply and demand. The supply hasn't kept up with demand, so there's not as many homes being built or places to rent as the expats that are coming in there. But it is definitely a good choice, again, if you want to be around more expats and have access to the beaches, the fishing, and the surfing. Right.
And so Mariato, as we've mentioned, would be kind of a more adventurous choice, maybe for a pioneer, more of a pioneer sort. Whereas Pedasí would be someone looking for community, instant community, lots of friends and cafes and little restaurants run by expats, and a kind of instant world to become a part of. All right, 6 choices for where to think specifically about living or retiring in Panama. In our next episode, we're going to talk about reasons why Panama might not be the place for you at all. Thank you for listening. I'm Kathleen Petticord.
I'm Lief Simon.
And we'll be back again soon.
Bye,
Take
everyone.
care.